Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to my channel. I'm really excited about making this video, and I've been preparing for it for a while, and today I'm going to be continuing my audiobook on Stephen King's Dr. Sleep, which I have in my possession right here. Dr. Sleep. So I have a few more other videos on Dr. Sleep. I may not have a lot of time in this video because my phone is full. But if you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe and like the video below. Okay, so a basic synopsis of Dr. Sleep. We already know that this is the sequel to Stanley Kubrick's movie, The Shining, as well as Stephen King's book, The Shining. This is the sequel. Yeah. So one thing we have about this book, I think one thing we can rest assured is that what we have in this novel is Danny, who's come back from the Overlook Hotel. The Overlook Hotel is burned down, and he has he's an alcoholic, but he meets this girl, and she has the power to also shine, and he can go back and with this girl, and together they have to defeat these witches. I think I'm not too sure about it, but anyway, the first few parts, the first chapter is very dark. Like I was kind of disturbed. It talks about Danny's abusive father who sexually abused him, who was very, Danny was molested as a young boy, and then there's this other girl. I forget her name. I think her name is Sarah. But anyway, she was molested by her father, and she got to the point where she actually killed her father by cutting off his testicles. And we had this very dark, just kind of gruesome start to the book. But I'm about to find out what else is happening. I've made it so far to chapter 2, page 23, and that's where I'm going to start. So let's get right into it. Alright, guys, so this is Dr. Sleep, and we are on page 23, 2. Okay, so it says, at 2 p.m. on a weekday, the movie theater was almost deserted, but 3 people sat 2 rows back from Andy Steiner and her date. 2 men, one quite old and one appearing on the edge of middle age, but appearance could be deceiving, flanked a woman of startling beauty. Her cheekbones were high, her eyes were gray, her complexion creamy. Her masses of black hair were tied back with a broad velvet ribbon. Usually she wore a hat, an old and battered top hat, but she had left it in her motorhome this day. You didn't wear a tall topper in a movie theater. Her name is Rose O'Hara, but the nomadic family she traveled with called her Rose the Hat. The man edging into the middle age was Barry Smith. Although 100% Caucasian, he was known in the same family as Barry the Chink because of his slightly upturned eyes. Now watch this, he says. It's interesting. The movie's interesting, the old man, Grandpa Flick grunted. But this was just his usual contraries. He was also watching the couple 2 rows down. It better be interesting, Rose said, because the woman's not all that steamy. A little bit, but there she goes, Barry said as Andy leaned over and put her lips to her date's ear. Barry was grinning, the box of gummy bears in his hand forgotten. I've watched her do it 3 times, and I still get a kick out of it. Mr. Businessman's ears was filled with a thatch of wiry white hairs and clotted with wax the color of shit, but Andy didn't let that stop her. She wanted to blow this town, and her finances were at a dangerously low ebb. Aren't you tired? She whispered in the disgusting ear. Don't you want to go to sleep? The man's head immediately dropped onto his chest, and he began to snore. Andy reached under her skirt, plucked up the relaxing hand, and placed it on the armrest. Then she reached into Mr. Businessman's expensive-looking suitcase and began to rummage. His wallet was in the inside of his left pocket. That was good. She wouldn't have to make him get up off his fat ass. Once they were asleep, moving them could be tricky. She opened the wallet, tossed the credit cards on the floor, and looked for a few moments at the pictures. Mr. Businessman with a bunch of other overweights, Mr. Businessman on the golf course, Mr. Businessman with his wife, a much younger Mr. Businessman standing in front of a Christmas tree with his sons and 2 daughters. The daughters were wearing Santa hats and matching dresses. He probably hadn't been raping them, but it was out of the question. Men would rape when they could get away with it. This she had learned, at her father's knees, so to speak. So, along with the abuse, we also have, a little bit of what I was telling you about before, rape. That's not all what's in this book, but there's a dark story behind this series. All right, so anyway, to continue, there was over $200. There was over $200 in the bill compartment. She found $200. She's very lucky. She had been hoping for even more. She got $200. How could she want more? The bar where she had met him catered to a better class of whore than those out by the airport, but it wasn't bad for a Thursday matinee. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. And there were always men who wanted to take a good-looking girl to the movies where a little heavy petting would only be the appetizer, or so they hoped. Okay, Rose murmured and started to get up. I'm convinced. Let's give it a shot. But Barry put a hand on her arm, restraining her. No, wait, watch. This is the best part. Chapter 5. Andy leaned close to the disgusting ear again and whispered, "Sleep deeper, as deep as you can. The pain you feel will only be a dream." She opened her purse and took out a pearl-handled knife. It was small, but the blade was razor sharp. What do you guys think she's about to do? What will the pain be? Only a dream, Mr. Businessman muttered into the knot of a tie. That's right, sweetie. She put an arm around him and quickly slashed double V's into his right neck. Yeah, that's pretty violent. A cheek so fat it would soon be a jowl. She took a moment to admire her work in the chancy light of the projector's colored dream beam. Then the blood sheeted down. He would wake up with his face on fire, the right arm of his expensive suit coat drenched, and in the name of the emergency room. Yeah, I don't think I'm dating this woman. She sounds too dark. And how will you explain it to your wife? You'll think of something, I'm sure. But unless you have plastic surgery, you'll see my marks every time you look in the mirror. And every time you go looking for a little strange in one of the bars, you'll remember how you got bitten by a rattlesnake. One in a blue skirt and a white sleeveless blouse. Alright, so that's all I can go for. If you like what you see, go ahead and again subscribe and like the video. Hope you guys liked it. Thank you.